of that. But that does not mean that we are forgetful of the fact that he is incarcerated with his sister. Not just his sister, but a lactating, mother, whose little baby had to, struggle to survive while the mother languishes in jail for the wrong reasons. So today is also important that we've said a lot about Ousseynou, but let's pin it at Ami today and have a look at why Ami should be in jail for over 2 years. This is something that I cannot really understand. But for whatever reason that is, we give it to the state. They have the power. They can say whatever, true or lies. That's dependent on them. But they cannot stop us from looking at things from one point to another. So for Ami, let's say this is Ousseinou's big sister. And Ousseinou's got a problem at home. Under normal circumstances, it's very okay that your sister comes and tries to help you. Now, Ami had directed Ousseynou to go to Casamance somewhere, to actually do whatever that he needs to do to seek redress to all the problems he was facing. But that's not even important to us because that's not our business. Our business here is how the state got Ousseynou and, of course, went on to jail the sister and, of course, kept them for over 2 years, 2 months in prison. First, now, these folks told us that Ousseynou killed the cops and was driven to the thick forest of Casamance by his co-conspirators. Now, they met him in a mosque. This is what the government of the Gambia told us. That for a full 1 week, they were surveillancing a paramilitary basis within the Greater Banjul area. That he works in Brikama Area Council, and of course some politicians were behind him. Now, this is the script that the government gave us. Now, when the incident happened, they did not know who it was, and Mama claimed that she got the potential suspect or the person who did it. They went to Casamance and they got Ousseynou. And when they got him, with all their narrations, he explicitly told them, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no co-conspirators. It was my sister who actually helped me to move from one point to another until I got here because I'm here for this particular reason. They went and arrested the sister, arrested his brothers and his family members. And they did not even tell us that, oh, we arrested a suspect and his family members. They said we arrested a suspect and his potential accomplices. You see, all of that is just language. When people are trying to deceive the public, this is what they do. Tell us we arrested Ousseynou Bojang and his family. Because you arrested him and his family, nobody else. Now, upon arresting the young man and his family, because he clearly told you, you know what, all that you're talking about, I have no clue about it. But to say that I got co-conspirators who provided me a vehicle that took me to the thick forest of Casamance is untrue. My sister helped facilitate my travel, and of course I got to Jululum at the garage, and this particular person that served the garage told me that, there is somebody here who has the ability to help you, and they directed me to Mama. So to suggest that that particular person got co-conspirators who met him in a mosque and, of course, provided him the escape vehicle into the thick forest of Casamance just for him to find himself, at a garage, crying or sad about, a problem with a white person. Does that make any sense? But let's pin it at that point. Somebody you told us is a rebel, hired to kill, and was able to kill in that mastermind fashion, yet he does not know how to escape just for him to go to a garage and start crying about a white person? Does that make any sense? Logically, to whom would you explain that to? But again, you told us that he got co-conspirators that met him in a mosque and provided him a vehicle into the thick forest of Casamance. Is Jululum Garage a thick forest of Casamance? Secondly, who are the co-conspirators? Do you now want to tell us that Ousseynou Bojang and his sister, a lactating mother, is his co-conspirator to actually go and kill the cops? You arrested Ami simply because Usainu told you, you know, what you're telling is not true. My sister helped me to actually travel. Now again, let's pin it at their first witness, the driver. The driver told us that on the day of the incident, on the 12th of September 2023, that he picked Ami Bojang from Yundum, drove her all the way to Brufut that same night, and they picked Usainu. He drove them back all the way to Brikama. At the time they got to Brikama garage, you know, Usainu claimed that no, we should not go into the garage, and he started, you know, having a fight with Ami over, you know, taking a vehicle in the garage. But we know around 10, 11 or midnight, who will have a vehicle at the Brikama garage that goes to Casamas? It does not exist. But of course, who will even go inside the garage at that hour? Nobody would imagine that. Even people who live in Brikama will tell you that something did not go right. But again, let's say even if that is the case, you said these people spoke in a language that you do not understand, this same driver, but until they got to the part that was talking about the killing of the cops and the police having to tell Usain, no, don't go into the garage, otherwise you might be captured. But again, do you want to now tell us that the police are accomplices in the case? Because in the case you told us that Usainu told the driver, or probably told the sister in the presence of the driver, that police ola kate yoko kana dum garaso kona kana dum pasase motola. Ning ayata rako police ola kate yoko kana dum pasase motola. O police ole. Ale police o mutalaba. Why will the police tell Usainu Bojan don't go into the garage and don't actually, use the main highways? Can this driver now tell us, after knowing all of that, why didn't he actually turn his vehicle and enter Brikama police station to report these people? Why did he proceed all the way to Dar es Salaam that same night and claim that, the bike man was able to pick Usainu that same night, just for the facts to be out that Usainu only left for Casamas the next day in the afternoon? So why did you arrest Ami? Would you now tell us that Ami is the accomplice to Usainu Bojan? Ami is the co-conspirator? You only arrested her simply because she helped the brother in his trouble, and then you kept her in jail for 2 good years. But let's even put it in basic investigation. You started questioning this particular person and said, you know what, I got no co-conspirators. I did not kill anybody. My sister helped me to travel, to Casamas. You went and arrested the sister. It's very simple to ask. When did you help this particular person to travel and how? Now, this incident happened on the 12th. The sister actually helped Usainu to travel on the 13th in the afternoon. Now, your witness claimed that it was the same day and at the same night that he actually picked Ami from Yundum all the way to Brufut and picked Usainu all the way to Dar es Salaam, and he did all of this in 30 minutes. But put a point, let's just pin it at that. How can a rebel, a gun mastermind, kill people in that fashion, yet he does not know how to escape? He ran back to Brufut, to stay in Brufut and wait for the sister to leave Yundum, come all the way to Brufut to pick him from the house and put him in a vehicle, transport him all the way to Brikama, then leave Brikama garage to actually go to Dar es Salaam and then get him to a bike man to take him to Casamas. Usainu does not know how to go back to Casamas if he is a rebel like you people claim? So you see that something did not go right here. But even after investigating and realizing that all your witnesses, what they were saying, does not really match what your investigations revealed, you went and fabricated an entire script and you claim that came from your investigation, when in reality that contradicts everything you brought to court. But let's say here, during your investigation, you would have got people who claim that it happened in their presence, including this particular driver. When you interviewed the driver, he told you, I actually, transported this particular person from this day and at this hour and at this time, from this place to this place to that place. It's simple. Moro Italy amisamba Brufut. Ha ya samba je wati jumal. Alafuta da Brufut wati jumal. Alabota je wati jumal. Alafuta da Brikama wati jumal. Ya moy wati jumal ko itol ko ten ninte. When did you get to, Dar es Salaam? And how did you hand him over to another person? He would have mentioned everything that he did. Now you got Ami in custody. Question Ami. Before coming to court to expose your ignorance and outright stupidity, it was very easy to actually determine if these statements collaborate. To actually look at, did the guy say he picked Ami on the 12th? Did Ami really go to Bruford on the 12th to pick Usenu? Was that what really happened? Allah kumol be for the photo nyoko. But I don't kuriabo momento. Tajirente abato. He deliberately want to impose something on people without even thinking, without even realizing that you are dealing with a very criminal or a very severe case that would require critical thinking to analyze and understand that something did not go right here. You people were so dumb that you did not even understand how to go about criminal framing of people. Because you could not understand that there was a big difference between even if somebody tells you that I picked this person from Yundum, I took her to Bruford, and then from Bruford we came to Brikama and then to Daslame, all in 30 minutes. But all of these people were all looking for what? 1 million bounty. And then it ended up in Mama Jabi's hands. But again, if you arrested Ami because she facilitated Usenu's travel, what exactly is wrong in facilitating your brother's travel? When in reality, all your witnesses, what they try to associate Ami to, did not really collaborate with anything. Because I don't know phone. Amela mako ipura tamara. Saying ali ola fali jumala kokan. Ala drive o minko atele Ami, atele Ami drive. We mimbe for abe mulial to Ami drive because okare Ami bondi jele on let's say I don't know what exact date that happened, either Tuesday or whatever, but then let's say on the 12th. Now, ite momi samba on the 12th for border. Yara for what out of border from the next day in the afternoon. So ite mean for say I don't know kid lalwe follow what. What are you going to say against this woman? And then you came out to the media to lie to the people, claiming that we got the suspect and some of his potential accomplices or his co-conspirators. When in reality, you only went home and arrested his family members and then you detained them for 3 days and released them. When you realize that everything these people are saying and what we are looking for does not match at all. You see, why would you actually try to frame other people? Look, we have seen cases like that. We've seen that young lady and the brother. The lady was a student at St. Peter's, Mary Gomez or something. Yamina file a korda kono ufanya jawiya sifa fongola. Up till date, what did the regime do about it? They did not bring the perpetrators to justice. They could not even tell who did it. And all of a sudden, it's just like that. So why did the regime lie in this particular one? And why did they try to frame a political entity? And why did they actually go on with all the lies and fabrications without even giving any justification as per why they had to do that? So it's just one thing. It's state complicity, because if you're not complicit, you have no reason to tell what does not make any sense. That is the question. But again, Ami's whole case of being in jail for 2 good years is, with his, with her lactating child out there who does not even know what it feels to have a mother, and his children all struggling day in, day out because their mother is nowhere to be found, just in prison for the only fact that she tries to help her own brother. Look, she's got to help her brother because that's her brother. And at the time, he was having a lot of mentally related and, of course, a lot of, trauma that was going through him, that he was going through. Again, you investigated. Now, whom did you rely on to actually, charge Ami? Because Hussein would have told you, Tonya de, Amel and they, she got me the vehicle to go. So that's the only reason you arrested this person. Now, your witnesses came and claimed that Ntalanga Ami Bondi, Yundum to all of this. And you realize that that witness, everything he said does not hold water. But you still kept this particular woman, went in there to actually charge her, and then keep her in jail for 2 good years. Nal ballo mal bo kelal. Nal bare musol long al ba kelal. Nal di musol long al ba kelal. And this goes to the police leadership. Ala nyi sifa la ka mol kam fa look. Niwe ko ko jibela, ajibe fa moto ba moro. If this was your mother, would you do that? If this was your sister, would you do that? If that was your wife, will you do that? When in reality, you wear the uniform to make sure that there is justice among all Gambians, to make sure that if there is a crime, you investigate it impartially and not to turn around to use your uniform to frame innocent Gambians and then keep them in jail, more so a lactating mother, and the entire nation is silent on the face of this injustice. No. And the same people will jump tomorrow and tell you that, oh yeah, we are women rights activists, we are gender, this and this and this are big bullshit. Because all long multimini along ko ino nyaka taratonya like nyakaral ike fonke ko ino nyamandara jakan. Ngo dia ju so nila musolo nyindi ba kelal. Ibu so nila musolo nyindi ba do mala telefono format lal. Minister of Justice nila musolo nyindal betala la ka ko mama la audio filter. Ral manke mo kendel ti mo kende jiko talla. Wala tina police musolo be police kill be nyenta wulla la kata kalto nyininka who really killed the cops. And every Gambian should actually be in pain, in agony that, a lactating mother as innocent as this woman has been in Gambia's jails for over 2 years for the simple reason that she tried to help a brother who was having some issues. And after all the investigation, you realize that there is nothing in this case, but yet you actually wanted to frame them with your lies and fabrications. Amanke politician, amantramansa kunda dokula. It's just somebody on the low doing her own thing, living her little, simple life, taking care of her family the way she could. Even though we have one of the worst governments in the world, yet no, she did not say anything about all the she's not even involved in anything like that. But doing her thing on the low, ali wulia sifa bela wande musokang, ali wulia sifa bela wande bakang, ali wulia sifa bela wande dingolkang. Alman balafa fang so doko nyim musola tam to nya ala yalon kila yalon ni mahani ko kuke alko let's put them in jail and put them in pain simply because what they got nobody to help them, they got nobody to speak for them because they don't have that financial capacity to stand up for themselves and of course make sure justice is done. Alko mbadanga wuliale kamindiata nyang wotilila. And then the rest of the nation will feel like because we are what? We are just, self-protectionist. Oh, why should I say something about it? Let me just ignore it and mind my business. Tomorrow, if it is your mother, your wife, or your sister, please shut up like you are doing now. So when I see people say, no, why I feel be jehna, I feel be jehud, I do me jambo. What people don't understand is the impact this is going to have on this family is going to be lifelong. Because a woman who had just giving birth not long ago, alio muta, altata was sorong, adingo ma, cannot even tell her what my mother looks like. The rest of her children are just struggling from one place to another. Ali wala dimbali be charindi, ali tora, ali batandi, ali kolea lekang. For over 2 years. Simply because I tried to help my brother to travel to Casamas and the regime turned around to frame him, to lie against him. And somebody, like ite ke kanambani la kurto ite nana kawuliya foko ndalanga musu kare samba from this point to this point ala ya lon kila ite kalungo min fon fani wata lungo min fon lo ma nyoje fenna mune be mobula la wala. But these are the people who were coached by the regime to come and lie against these people. But one would ask the question, why will the regime go that low? Ning ayatare bulimedu si medu tolman ko kukeot. Why will they do that? And these are people many along balle tolulu yesusundi, and they should have really that that humanity in them, that level of kindness and consideration to women. But these are the people who are the worst of people in society. And then they will go home and make their wives cook for them or actually have conversation with women. And of course they look them in the eye and feel like, what, I am progressive, I am successful, I am happy. When in reality, one di balamuta, one di muso, one di sister, yo soron nyala mi alon kanin tonya nintilungo manda. This is what you people want us to believe. And this is what every woman in the Gambia want to sit down and be silent about. That they all can see that a lactating mother is actually put in prison for the wrong reasons. And everybody feels like, do suma business. Yan deka binilang koy dohali. Do suma business. Ah, ini yung case of an bodala ren. Dol kono be do suma business kelan. Na ju sungkan din natatar lagi. But you know, sometimes it's funny, but yet it's not funny because the whole point is that for somebody, and you know, I mean, like mudon jigen mud gornat. With everything that you have done to her, she's taking the patience with it. Her children sometimes act stronger than I, because when I talk to them, it feels like, dude, you feel so cool, man. But what can they do? Because the question comes back. Defuñu, xamuñu, yeguñu. What can we do? ñoom ñoo amee doole bi ñoo amee nguur ngi lu leen neex ñoo amee uniforme bi lu leen neex loolu lañ ñooy def ñun mënuñ ci dara comme que suñu yaay moo si nekk kay moom, you know, we're just there to actually look at things as time goes on, you know. Ngay, you know, tilo, you know, fanoy ke tiloy boy, you know, it's the same thing, the same routine, up and down mile 2. Imagine if you're spending 200 to and fro every day for 2 good years, almost 150,000 without your mother who is actually, you know, struggling to actually give you a living. Who is going to help you to do all that? Do we even think how these families are surviving, how these families are actually eating, how these families are sleeping, when in reality their mothers right in that prison cell for doing what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know, these people respect nobody, let alone to talk about somebody they even framed. Look at the surviving lady who is recommended for overseas treatment, but for 2 years she's not taking for any treatment. So ning ayadara ko police la saya etol sunufang, and then womu kude mi yalang kwa etol sula. A surviving lady is right there, but of course they cannot even take her to overseas treatment. And this is what you tell us, that we have a reasonable and a sensible and of course a progressive government. Mini yalang ko ning police la fa ni mi ya bondi kan don along ko iman to nyaf. Tabuka malo mola wala fam. And I don't even look at any relationship when it comes to this particular case. You don't feel like what I'm saying is okay with you, fuck out of my life. It's as simple as that. Because that simply means you're just a dishonest person who does not believe in nothing and does not believe in the truth. So why do I need somebody like that? So the whole point is that this is a guilty nation of people who are complicit, because in the face of injustice, you know, silence would mean complicity. There are over 65% of Gambia's population, but they are seeing outright injustice, and everybody could actually connect one and two and realize that, you know what, something did not go right in this case. But everybody feels like, you know what, do suma yai, do suma dom, do suma jarba, do suma mboka, so suma business nekochi. We are all pretending to be self-protectionists because we only care about just us and probably our jobs. But you cannot do all of those things, you know, rightly, you know, in the presence of outright injustice. So Ami will start her defense, and now one wonders, what exactly do you want Ami to say? I help Hussein to travel, yes. This particular driver said he picked me from this day to this day. I only went there the next day and not that day. So whatever he said was a lie. Explicitly clear. So what else would you tell us in Ami's, you know, defense? What exactly does he need to defend? You would even defend something that you really... What exactly is Ami going to defend? Because I keep wondering, like, you know, I was driving back home and thinking around, okay, this defense is coming up. What exactly is the point? There is only one person who mentioned Ami. That is the so-called driver who was coached to come and lie and said that, oh, I took her from that night to go to Bruford and I picked them, and when they started talking about the killing of the cops, they spoke in a language that I understood. But of course, that particular driver did not drop them at the police station, but still took it. Ami charge me na. What driver manyana kanala wala? You see, the state witnesses, if the reality is that wala ko tonya ito le mi follow tonya wala be nyanda tarla mile to at this point in time, because let's look at it first. Ita ko Ntala nga Ami bondi yundom nga samba fo Bruford. Nga bondi Bruford nga samba fo Brikama. Bar kabiri mfota Brikama be diamu kan ninjola kangola fo kabiri fota da faroto. Ayo fo ning kangola ndanga mi moy. Ba ite kango mi moy ya moy ko karaka mo fala ke police wala kate ko kana dungara so kon han wobe. Ita mo mari report, ita mo police ko, ita mo wol jindila mo do kon. Barete wol samba ko denk. But sa ni da ko wala ko kana tan nyaro silola foyete wol sambani ko ma silola na ni sambani ko ma silola sambani sila jumala albuni beta bulala ka mo falal sambani ko ma silola. Then you are complicit, just like you charge army of trying to help Usainu to escape. Escape what? Nothing. But the fact of the matter is that if army tried to help Usainu to escape, where does that leave the driver? Atol ko mi matol la witness ot. Alal kal fango dunal bu kal fang kalam dafa. Because ya moy ko karo ko I mo fala ki side bo sambala promo. If you are not complicit in it, which is just a fabricated script of lies and manipulation. Just like the person who claimed that, oh yeah, I wrestled down the gunman and then he threw a gun at me and I picked the gun and my boss asked me to hide it. And then the police came to court to say that the gun was only picked after 10 days because somebody hid it. Now the person that hid that gun and his boss should go to jail because that is concealment of evidence. Again, wali e fango dunali e bulai mindiate iba kala sade kona be fani akensen simply because atola kate pick na ale wulia sifa be fo e ka diate nyame puri afo nyama. Olo mto nyame. Just like your independent witness said that he came to anti-crime because of a vehicle problem and he arrived there around midnight and he entered through the back door simply because his name was not signed in. So therefore, to fabricate a script, not to really make it look like, yeah, I came in through the right door, because if he said he came in through the right door, we will say, bring the register ngaji be. But I don't know adunta ni back door langko. In what security institution will you go to at midnight and enter through the back door? I used to live in a military barracks. If you are not a resident there is no way you will just walk in through the back door. More so, and the crime is not even a human resident. It's just there for, it's a place for work. So who goes to that workplace at midnight? Is midnight part of working hours? Funny either anti-crime here muta sudo le denade soronjet, but I meta muta imam kuge ko you have a vehicle problem. But what has a vehicle problem got to do with anti-crime? Vehicle problem, police station, and then to claim that I entered anti-crime through the back door by midnight, that is just impossible. Police, no single police officer will tell me that somebody comes to anti-crime at midnight and of course enters through the back door without being processed in. That is even dangerous to the people who are working there. Because do you know the person that you're actually allowing to enter through the back door? Do you want to tell me that anti-crime is not a secured place? Anybody, somebody will rek munna nyo rek muduga numko nehe mugi na numko nehe. Wala ngeen nyobuga wa. Ay feni kese. Ay feni kese. And again, you Ibuso, you are the same person who will go and pick this independent witness in your vehicle, drove with him all the way to, the airport, and of course start questioning, Usainu Bojang. Ngo, you said he's an independent witness. Even transportation, he should not be dependent on you. But how did he actually get to that place? This is like Sabuela, and all of that. All that has been established. You have civilian operatives within you who actually help you to mastermind some of these criminal acts. You use them to actually frame our own citizens to lie against them. Look over here. Just like, imagine, Director of Public Prosecution of the Gambia coming to court to claim that Mama's audio is lost because her phone was spoiled. Like a whole DPP of our country. Kukel ndandang wolonde ana mo enda tonye binde te sambala Gambia fankot me sambala kiti jumala meni alon ka ko tan nako ibuka tonya nin tilongo tamani ja be mulia folal nin tapale mollet drok dilal bol kono karanda malong drok ol ka mission nya dila within court complexes nindula ko dongol ay tapale kese. So nyinam kuti mimbe sodoring. So you will come with army, and then the whole Jabari Jambur. Wearing a mask for 2 good years is enough trauma on that woman. And to come out for your children to look at you, like, itabu anyway, ini di from banyo jibela nyadi. Iba muna fang fole. Iba afole muna fang keta. Ini si nyol fang iba wol jibe no la nyadi. Iba afole ko muna fang keta. And all of these people, they got neighbors, they got, am nañ ay àndandoor am nañ ay xarit am nañ ay njaboot, and then yéen ngeen toog you go to sleep so and then dangay nelaw ba xàndoor nga foog ne comme like yow yaa si nekk fekk ay doomi jàmbur yéen a ngi leen tëj si ay fen, ay doomi jàmbur yéen a ngi leen rey si ay tapale. And this is what you people want us to believe. And you know, the funny thing about it is that, you see these 2 boys they killed. They have this tradition among their group, like the batch they trained with, that if any one of them is sick or seriously ill or something, they put money together and bring to you. Come, you know, if you Gambian, people are kind and cool. But the surviving lady, while she was in hospital, this class of people put money together, wanting to send one of their senior, people to go and see her and, of course, extend their support to her. The police denied them. The police denied the police from seeing the surviving lady. Don't you know about? It's a tradition within them that ni momo sasade kone kodo kafunka funyoma ye modan tankije puri ete mari jibe. But police will be all ball no la nyari la korani ndo jibe because they did not want any communication. Go police nol atolle along ko alla ke balle alla di nol 5 murunta ka wuliya foje kado ni to lo make mone be bulala wuliya fo la jef ka fon to le usene be do ko la brikama area council abo UDP la tele hudi dung rebelo la mati he acquired the gun from the Casamas rebellion obenyo wuliya. So now tell me, ask your boss why, how, and from where. And you all know how basic police investigations are done. But to tell me that he's a rebel, okay, let's say that's a little mistake or that is out of bound. He works in Brikama Area Council, Moto. That is an inexcusable mistake. You cannot even call that a mistake. That is inexcusable. You know why? It will not take you 30 minutes to confirm if he works in Brikama Area Council or not. He was the guy in hoodie. It is very simple to actually, go and pick Yankuba Dabo to say, we want to know your entire security detail to confirm that. You did not do all that because your script was prepared prior. It was a prefabricated script and, of course, executed in that fashion. And then you came out to give that entire script, which does not really match with the circumstances and, surrounding the killing of the cops. And then that exposes your complicity and your initial, probably, discussions to do whatever had happened. Moro, atolle alo mune atinali was script or fabricate because amurebelo ti omanke mistake oti. Abe do kola Brikama Area Council omanke mistake oti. Abe nu Yankuba Dabola court case omanke mistake oti. Atele hudi during that court case omanke mistake oti. Atondi ako kido nyimba aboli jelo during that court case omanke mistake oti. We use codes to actually get him omanke mistake oti. Omanke like all of these things, Sankara Emin buried into from A to Z. None of it is true. So do you want to tell me that Sankara's entire script was from the police, in investigation? What kind of investigation? But again, when these people were called in court, were subpoenaed, and they were asked about this particular, statements, they claim that it's intelligence. But momimbe mutarita bulu. Itanyanda investigate. Intelligence. Intelligence from who? What is the source of your intelligence? Imagine Sankara being asked in court. Ite mimbe for jumale ofo ite agava ko police la fonya. Police jumala afo ya kota fola. Matonya. Nga mo kurungol nin tapalel nin criminal ol jela bar nana man criminal tolel jami ni masa kundani la ina yin criminal ndingol si. Police la ko ite ko, their investigation is what revealed this. Sankara, can you provide the preliminary police investigation report? No. Sankara, who among the police called you to tell you all of this? No, it's the police. Police has over 10,000 people. The police will be a diameter. The police instituted an investigation panel. Did you speak to the people from the investigation panel? And one thing about this case is that when the police investigate something, it goes to the police prosecution. And the police prosecution probably send the files to justice for advice. And justice would recommend whatever action that needs to be taken. So atoli investigation okela fal pareta. Aliya samba police la prosecution. Waliya samba to justice. And justice actually used all this investigation and of course recommended for the prosecution of Ami Bojang and Usaino Bojang. Without anything that they can actually visibly lay hand on and say, Tonya, nyine batina lamba nyi recommend la for prosecution. Because you are so much used to a single narrative prosecution and incarceration ka fanya dada ka lamol kan ke prosecute wakang ke sorong wakang moro wata kela nyin kesto anun ka wuli fanan ka mol fati limbal ya ko min ya lon ko moro ila only crime is to wear the uniform to work for this country. Mom police ya doya, but what is in it? If it is not out of patriotism, what is in it? Not just police from come Gambia doko. Moro molka doko kela danko drum banku kanoning. That's what we got. But what is in it? Jumale doko ke masa kunda, and then you actually become, rich nada na manke sunya aron intapaleal. Just based on your, like, let's say salary, Gambian salary, me along komoro unka yani tili tamfong abuke someone will boloko. So people actually survive. It's just Gambia. It's like the whole system is just for survival, not really to make you better. So you go there, dance a dollar, just for the betterment of that country, but not really that it is financially rewarding or it is rewarding to a point that you feel like yeah, I feel good doing what I'm doing. No. But a wali uniform or doom. Imagine you will someone that let's say weekend, yela uniform or be cool for a tell beje, yela someone to be mutaya be polish, yela you be iron like these are little bachelor boys who would have just joined army. Yela uniform or be iron for the local beje, ngara do kola, yaron, ye black for be tell be senk. Just for somebody, me along ko wala nyande protect like be do ko kakang bankole, you're wearing that country's uniform for them to frame all that criminal-minded actions and come and kill you and claim that, oh yeah, it's the UDP because it only be complain kan parte jallola and altara parte jallo dofa, and then you want to tell us that that's a coincidence. But with all your lies, you want to tell us that all those lies are what? They are just mistakes? These are just not acceptable in any decent society. So the whole point now is Ami Bojang would actually begin her defense. And probably that will not take more than 3-4 days, I would suggest. But upon that, this case is concluding. And one thing that is clear, beyond reasonable doubt, is not just Usenu's innocence, but state complicity. But also, it speaks to the fact that we as a people are very much complicit in matters like this because we feel like we are just going to serve as self-protectionists and we will not speak the fact where it is required. Where would have this case been? Because it's absolutely clear that the state was out to frame this person, to lie against him, and to make sure they do everything possibly, anything possible they could to actually put him in jail. That is why they formatted his phone. That is why they actually come with the suits that did not fit. Because in the malon fanang ite mola telefono beji be yajo ko tonya karda mantanyu lade. So ural nga bula. No number nga telefono format nga ulia laka. This is what the police do. Bara ko nga fanya memba ko mfala walter nal ballom al takela. Ale min fanam fa nal dingolom wala al dollom wala al kotollom al te fala. Ale mini fanan soro nal dollom wala al ballom wala la sistallom wala la musollom al ta kelela waye lu waye def rek sa bop mom moy minke dre kunka minen tafal to nyala kala bang al mam malubi tol mo jaw balla fangoti one thing I know, if I was a police officer mina la uniform mbala la headquarters nga jani je ngam fonyo fentem fato la jow yana la hasidia ni hadumo. You do this for politicians, like police as an institution, to come out and on facing cameras to tell us Hussein Obojang is a rebel, he works in Brikama area council, Abenu Yankuba Dabola court case lot, or rebel Ola Mati, he acquired the gun from Casamas rebellion. Somebody provided him the escape vehicle in the thick forest of Casamas just for you to go and arrest him and his sister. Alko momo e kulonje, let them go and bring you evidence. Manka jantara Casamas janaka na alia mudalia sorom. Simply because you wanted to confiscate everything he's got. People know you were looking for him. Mankajang had done everything he needed to make sure that he keep records of those information. That's a very credible young man. Out of nothing, out of his own volition, he said, you know what? He doesn't even know tomorrow. He could have just said, you know what, let me, just like any other person would say, hey, Moro, the regime and the police have the blood of their members right staining on their in their hands. Amanda dal fangola, amanda bulol fangola de. Nka yellow ka jolon na ni dal ni no la kari dole wulta ka wulia sifa be la molka nka kumo sifa be for me alon ko mo malon about dami. Ale wande bare muso wande muso wande bama ko muta ko soro nya sifa la fa sanje flo min tambira wala. Every one of you, I'll contribute. Just sit back and reflect and think, if this was me, how would I feel? That ibule medu isi medu moli ya wule dorong. Hani kabiri itada fang foya alongo tonya ite mage. Eko hani alanga lakang. Alanga telefono format. Alanga fengo abe mabo. Let's hide the gun. Let's, the vehicle that they said actually belongs to a police officer and that you people claim earlier on that belongs to Usaino Bojang. Muna nalman dawa muda. Why did you compensate the 3 military people who claimed that they were the witnesses and then you actually gave them a trip to Turkey? How could a military man even say that Ndamalo Nimonyo who actually the senior man is all fanyale beji beba? That your ballistic examiner would say only 3 bullets came out of the gun. This government is one of the most disgusting ones, just like the previous. But you people know how you criminally connived to kill the cops and to frame Usaino Bojang. And no mama ko hani taranso mandungate bulbar audit report ya tandila ko mama ay 1 million o diatella. But I'm menga mama ning IGP je ka jele ngaibe kachala feka kaka in a public space. When this case is still ongoing. If you have people like that, one of the most senseless people leading the Gambia has a kakistocratic regime. Our country is being led by the worst of society. And President Mimodewa, no, Feli. No, cousin Carla Benin Blackar. No, number in Carla Benin, no, could okay, Dimola Benin Blackar. That's how you even talk to investors. Oh no, come, groundnut. Oh, about anything about groundnut. Oh no, go to GGC. Not former whatever. Guardian. Whatever. For him, it's about family. He's just positioning them to actually do what? Nothing. Just to loot state resources. By minin tafal to nyawela banal. Allah mansakunda tamana nyana haji tawadot. We just give this 1 month to actually this case because it's almost ending. The rest of it politics. Aldaman dia motijang. Albadi man siya motijang. For now tapalel mini along ko dia only after their selfish interest. Wala ba bulala no maka boring al no warni one time. Tonya dron. Masa kundala fuda masa kundala beda dunia. Parangol. Kaya ngal tento alma tiloto dia la man, But that's just it. Ami would actually start her defense, but what exactly is she going to defend? What did they even say about her? One thing. On this day, when in reality, Ami only left the next day. I bang. Mobete la hajwala. Na left a min. Alwa waje. Ale William Befom. Allahu alam. Abani alatim. But I'm on that no fangad. When you're kidding la janna for janning, kudo bolaje. Atolo moja ubaleti. The IGP, the former IGP, DI or DIG nyolu, for ibuso ita la kuo fon kanda jakal mo bede item fonninkel to control ite useno jibe ko fonninkel mo committee ita ko hani mboda nga wuliya sifa be laka. Imagine nite nyimbo frame num for the succeed with all the lies. You are going to put this boy in live imprisonment, put his sister in live imprisonment. Moro, and then you will be walking in the streets happily. Moro, itam jongula la famodi. Itam moja ubalti man. Itam ne sana man jaman fata hani fengo fenna man. You are so wicked. And then man come mun ka ko no boy no ninyi mbobe no MDL no nganu boy Cameroon long ko mo Cameroon la ka joya dunia fengo beti. That this boy have that audacity to go and even format Usaino Bojang's phone. No, up till date I cannot even deal with that. I tap it fi. I go and search your name on Facebook. I write you a message, dude. You are fenal key. Don't let me tonto. You len gena sick. Then this sadik alman sadik family. Moro, ale uniform wura ko malni mole ben town. Sal ju fara foti loy boy. Atole ni mo jawol. Police kendol be fare Gambia. Very good people. Mo kende bal. It's not even worth mentioning people because then they will think, oh, one thing or another. But police will mo kendol bin be Gambia buka bang. Boy, imagine people make a law using night butanga bobu no for hours. directing traffic. What do they get from it? But niko mole polisol hormo polisol la nyaton ko la nyanda polisol fang hormala alman danki hormantaya. Look at that SAR guy who actually came to that pure protest, talking to his subordinates in the language and manner he did, so disrespectful. Why tol ka menelo ko ni mi rankin din so drong lang ba nga sembo jay modul kam dol bala ko wala kam ma wala nyama al fang long. You this in that black uniform, long. Some of you, not really, most of the people. Like, the fact is that 3/4 of the police, or probably everyone in the police, know that something did not go right in this case, but they cannot speak for themselves. Whenever we are speaking, we are not talking about the good and the nice cops. We are talking about the leadership. And that leadership, leadership needs to change. And of course, some of them need to be prosecuted. And including all the way to interior, not just at the police headquarters, but even the interior. So the police need to revolt and ask the question, who killed the cops? You need to ask that question to your leadership. Because you all know how basic investigations are done. And you know that something did not go right in this case. And you know that all fingers point to your leadership. Because they had no reason to lie. And the lie in this case means complicity. Because it's not just a single lie. Nia County is almost over 35. So if those are not cover-ups and manipulations, and of course trying to hide one thing or another, what would you classify them? What would you categorize them to be? So So on that note, we're wishing Ami well, We're closely in touch. The good thing is that, for some reason, I think they still allow people to make 1 or 2 calls my sister passed a couple of weeks, and my auntie did say, oh yeah, we spoke to Useno and he said this and that and that. We got that. And the dudes are going there regularly to see how the folks are doing, which is great. But the whole point is Useno's worry was never even about him, because the last time we got in touch was not even about him. He has always been worried about Ami. Because at the guilt he's got is like, but the whole point is maybe some problems at home. That is what led my sister to be incarcerated for 2 years. And then Usain knows Amika Luala Dimbali and how those people are going to really, fend for themselves, and how her family is going to really be kept together. What did Dimina and Nongoma? Because the whole point he has always been telling my sisters that because but amita bonola jay, and the guilt is that imagine that burden on the mind of this young man, and then he'll come out of jail, he's going to stay with that burden for the rest of his life because of him. His sister's been jailed for over 2 years with Aladin Merong Hainam Bandajan. And then the children will look, we say for over 2 years. And then they will look back and say, at the end of the day, that's just it. But then you have destroyed a family. You've, kind of put them in a mess. You've kind of put them in a, serious financial burden. You've kind of destroyed their lives going forward because they got children. How will these people even focus in school for 2 years? Probably they would have gone all out of school. Do you even care? You don't. Ikara wan barakanta yatili wandi dolla iko wol tora iko wol tilimbali iko wol dunia tinya ala mandral damay sama buka bongal damal la suwol kono anon tilo buka mala jet fano buka kal damal ya no suwo buka kwal damal ya also wolonje nimbi ya mena ko ni yimbul do wulende ko ndama mo wori ntabi ya sembola bandabul nyindo fana wulende ya ko mo manta wori de ali ya mena lo finde ale press conference ko kale wuli ya sifa be fo moli altuji atol lo njumalti do be jefang ni mira nyin la ko fang la stress o ka wutundale fang la ka dum mol kon, but aman jalal. Anyway, we gotta go, man. It's almost getting to 5 over here, so guy alama sudo dialo. And prosecution of this case revolves around just a few wordings: lies, deceit, manipulation, and cover-ups. Now, this is just what one would use to summarize the case. And sufficiently what the defense did and what the public did is to scrutinize the government thoroughly. And it got to a point that the government can no longer hide. And where we want to base today's conversation is still on the audio, because this audio is the incriminating, or the so-called incriminating audio that led to the arrest of Hussein Obojang. Now, first, just a reflection of what really did happen is that the government of the Gambia, they told us that they got a person whom they believe had killed the cops. And this person, was seen in Jululum, and where, he was directed to Mama, and Mama Jabi claimed that she recorded the person's confession and, handed him over to the Senegalese gendarmerie, who eventually handed him over to the Gambian, police or, paramilitary or anti-crime, we call them. But there were two instances to this particular incident. The Gambia police force did not tell us that Mama got the person. They claim that they use codes, the non-existent codes. Like, people with GIS technological expertise understand, or probably if you have an understanding of, geographic positioning systems, you basically know how mapping and all of these things work. So there is no way you can start tracking a phone that you do not even know who owns it. You don't know the number, you don't know the person, because at that point in time, nobody was known, nobody was identified as the person who killed the cops. So everything that the DIG told us is out of ignorance and outright misunderstanding of the subject matter, and decided to lie with his codes and Alpha Bravos. But let's just pause there a minute. Why did the Gambia police force, after the death of its own men, decided to come out to tell us that the person who killed them, we tracked him from one point to another, just for that to turn out to be a lie? Did you ask yourself the question, why would the police, with all its machinery and with all its sophisticated men and training and of course discipline, would come out and lie about the killing of their own men? This becomes the question. Now, even whereas that is just not true, one cannot associate it to a mistake. It's not a mistake. This was a perfected script by the Gambia police force. And making such claims did not only tantamount to just lying to the public, but of course complicity in the case. Now, you said you got the person because you use codes. You were asked to provide the codes. You deliberately refused to provide the codes because the codes do not exist. Second, now, the other story you carried is Mama was the person who actually recorded the confession of this particular person, and she's the one that got the killer. Now, this is an audio you circulated all over the country, and people listened to it, and people stored it and kept records of it. But what I do not understand is, if it is because of the codes you got Hussein Obojang, provide the codes. If it is Mama's audio that led to the arrest of Hussein Obojang, please provide the quote with Mama's audio. You said the audio is lost. You see, there is one thing about this case, if you look at it chronologically. The government machinery from State House, Sankari and Co. lied to the nation. The National Security Advisor and, of course, the Security Council lied to the nation. The Gambia Police Force lied to the nation. The independent witness lied to the nation. Their coached witnesses lied to the nation. Even the prosecutors from the Ministry of Justice lied to the courts. Because how can you say it's because of an audio you arrested this person? Provide the audio, you claim that the audio is lost. When in reality, the police had transcribed this audio over 3 times and realized that there is nothing incriminating in it. There is no part of the audio where this person claimed to be, a murderer who had killed anybody. But let's put all of that aside This is your audio that you claim is lost. Moro, abukolo koni ko nyoko ela bale filter. Ela ba min filter ngaje na rasambe na ko ela ba min filter fele. Iko hani tan tela bat. Itan tela bat and man tela batala. How is that possible? That the government of the Gambia said they arrested this young man because there was a confession in an audio. Now, this audio, when you were asked to bring to court, you said the audio is lost with all kind of lies. We provided you your own audio to court to listen to it. If Usaino did confess, yes, here is your audio. Listen to it and, of course, make a judgment. The same people that arrested a young man, incarcerated him for 2 years, tortured him and, of course, maltreated him, turn around to say that this audio will not be admitted here. Moro, Gambia, what I'm going to do is put more at a name as a kundala ko tilongon into a yamantamaja. Atolle tamalla audio ti. Alka alla audio filitali. Ngalla audio findindale nang. Alko audio manda apile la court. So, komentana yo kaunante nyan kom pamilya banyami kiba fing biking king ulere piu kaunda kata pija kuma ba police doing the pija kuma bukaro 1 year, 2nd year, 3rd year anniversary. You should not listen to the police because the police killed your children. They killed them out of evil simply because they wanted to please the regime and, of course, ban another political party. It's not my interest, whatever political interest they got in the whole case. But the fact of the matter is that these people killed Sanjay Gomez and Pate Jallo for political reasons. And nobody can actually dispute that. Because the fact of the matter is that they told us that the person they got works in Brikama Area Council and was at the Yankuba Dabo court case. What exactly were they expecting to get from that? Why did they fabricate that script to a point that you said there is an audio, incriminating audio? Now your audio is brought to you. You said you will not play, the audio will not be played in court, the audio will not be transcribed, the audio should be completely dismissed. But this is your audio on the basis of which you arrested this young man. But the judge is not a dumbass, just like the prosecutors are. You know, we've been telling you that if you think you are criminally minded, we are probably 10 times criminally minded than you, and of course we will beat you on in your own game, because the whole point is that you are the criminals who actually did this terrible act and then trying to play dirty. Because the fact of the matter is that it was the bystanders that said that this particular vehicle, that was the, the Mercedes-Benz, that with the number plate that was exposed all over, belongs to the killer. And the owner of the Mercedes-Benz is a police officer who is an orderly to one of the governors and has a pistol. This is a person of interest in this case. And you people will be called back to actually tell us who really killed the cops. So the whole matter is not about proving Usaino's innocence. We have done that long before today. But the point now becomes who killed the cops. And then when you look at the families of the people you killed and turn around, be inviting them to some of these ceremonies, pretending as if you don't know what happened, when in reality you are the perpetrators of this same crime. Where does that leave this country's justice system? If justice ministry and its folks and prosecutors can come to court and lie, and then turn around to say, oh no, the audio will not be admitted here. Of course it was admitted. And that audio will go a long way in determining why the system was built on manipulation, lies, and deceit. But here is the whole point. You caught someone because he confessed to killing. The confession you said is lost. We brought you the confession, you vehemently trying to condemn its admissibility. Are you clean? DPP, if you are the director of public prosecution in that country, you should be fired for your lies in court, because you do not really deserve to spend another day in that place. Because Itamanke Tonya Moti, you are not an honest man, you are a deceitful man. You are a man who is actually out there to lie against Gambians. And Usaino Bojang have proven that beyond reasonable doubt, that you all are just a bunch of criminals who pretend to be serving justice when in reality, the most unjust people that the Gambia has ever seen. After everything, all your witnesses, I will just bring them one after the other. Now, when the case happened, you said there was a watchman sitting on top of a fence. For some reason, he just saw somebody running and then ran after the person and wrestled him down, and the person just threw a gun at him. While he wrestled him down, he could not even tell if the shirt was white or black. That does not make any sense to anybody. But yet again, let's even give it a lot of sense. You wrestle him down, you just don't know what kind of clothes you wear, but of course he threw a gun at you and it was dark, but you could still see the gun, but you could not see the person. But the person you cannot see and cannot tell what he wear, how can you even wrestle him down? Where did you hold this person when you cannot even see the person? Because somebody you did not see and you cannot recognize, how did you even hold him to a point that you could wrestle him down? But you could wrestle him down and you cannot tell if the sword was white or black, yet he escapes. But when he threw a gun at you, as dark as it was, you are still able to see the gun and of course dive the gun and pick it. Like, I don't even understand that. You don't need to be a police, you don't need to be a security person, you just need common sense to understand that. Even after picking the gun, let's still give you the benefit of the doubt that the person did pick the gun. Now, upon picking the gun, he said he called his boss. Now, when you actually wrestled this person down, there was nobody within that entire vicinity. Nobody saw you. Nobody was present. It did not happen in the presence of anybody. It was just you, and nobody is in that house. Nobody is in that vicinity. The first thing you did is to call your boss. But even whereas you call your boss, Amankela boss nyala, ila boss malo minketa, he has no clue about what really happened. You told him, oh, I was just chasing after somebody, because at the time, this witness wouldn't have known what exactly did happen. I was just running after somebody. For some reason, he threw a gun at me. And your boss said, hide it somewhere. I will arrange for it to be picked up. Hello? Hello? Amankela. It's just like today. If something happened somewhere in the streets and an employee of ours said, oh, this is what happened, and I start to say, no, hide it somewhere, I'll arrange for it to be picked up. Because the best thing to do at that point immediately would be call the police. But hide it, I will arrange for it to be picked up. What did your boss know about the whole case that he had to tell you to hide the gun and he will arrange for it to be picked up? And then proceeding from there, the boss did not arrange for the gun to be picked up. The gun was only picked up after 10 days, according to the police. All of these people need to be fired and, of course, prosecuted. Because if the person did say that he wrestled the gunman down and he threw the gun at him and he picked the gun and then hid the gun, and his boss told him not to tell anybody until he arranged for this to be picked up, why will his boss arrange for the gun to be picked up without calling the police immediately? At that point, they did not know that, of course, a shooting happened. They would have heard later on that a shooting happened. Why did the police not pick the gun the next day? Why not the third day? Why not the fourth day? Why not the fifth? Up to the 10th. So, your witness and his boss should be charged for concealment. Because it's because of that concealment of evidence that led you to tell us that no DNA can be conducted. You know why? You are hiding from one point to another. You are hiding because you know that if a DNA is to be conducted, you will be exposed. So what you wanted to continue to hide from one point to another. Wale atina, Kabrale press conference called, the DIG was asked, DIG, what was the mark of the gun? He was so agitated and said, oh, we did not say we picked any gun. You can see guilt and complicity. You have a clear understanding of criminal justice systems around the world. And you can tell when people, the perpetrators, turn to be the victims. You can look right in their eye and tell them, hello, you are a murderer. And that is what the Gambia police force and in the government machinery of the Gambia is guilty of. Mamo ko dan lon. Wanda ta sila la ko. Alta mol badi ngol mutal alke tilimbali alka batara ya tilil alka wulya lekang alko mol yende o kan. Atakela jang. Moro. Saya mungkin ada mau buka file buli yo na fa ko tenke no. Amona na man fa wulta na afanya ko mimbeje. Tanata wala. The worst of evil a human being can do to you is to kill you. And at the end of the day, when you die, you are done. Nothing else. But that does not negate the fact that we will not speak the truth. And we will not watch our people, our brothers, our colleagues, our friends being incarcerated falsely by a regime built on lies, deception, and manipulation. Alamanda walatol control ko useno bojamia lonko. We went to school with him. We grew up with him in the community. Kate mo rebelolati. Alnada, you were superior to court, you could not prove it. And then you even told the court that it was based on intelligence. Again, let's examine intelligence. Intelligence is prior information given to you before you actually get a suspect. But any information you are getting from this particular person should be facts based on investigation and of course questioning. It's no longer intelligence. When you said he is a rebel, that is no longer intelligence because that must be something that you have to factually prove. That Moro, if he told you that he's a rebel, show us the evidence that, of course, we were interviewing him and we recorded his confession that he is a rebel. So you cannot tell us that that is basically intelligence. It can no longer be qualified as intelligence because this person has been under your custody for over 30 hours before you did that press conference. So everything you would have said in that press conference can no longer qualify as intelligence. It will be basically based on facts. Because you marry Bela Mutokonola and then you are investigating him, you are questioning him, you are torturing him. Yet you came out to lie vehemently to the Gambian people. When you were subpoenaed to court, you said it was based on intelligence. No. A press conference should be based on what? The findings you've gotten after a period of investigation. It can no longer be intelligent. Intelligence might be the leads getting to capture this particular person. But upon capturing him, it can no longer be intelligent. It will be based on facts and evidence. Atolye dalilo bonde muntola ka fontole ko useno bojambe doko la brikama area council. That is not intelligence. That is a fabricated script of lies and political manipulation. Atolye dalilo bonde muntola ka fontole ko politician ole ba koma and for a whole 1 week they were surveillance in paramilitary bases in the Gambia. Fanyalom wati. And then connecting the dots, you know that killing a Pate Jallo is just trying to make it look like it's mistaking identity because United Democratic Party was complaining about Pate Jallo mi alonko wolomo AIGT. Wonim babu jeng time mo mina ale UDP ko bute karal dalta wala ko tilimbali adrong ka batarea tilila. After flogging these people and including some people that now joined you, and then including their brothers complaining that, you know what, you capitalize on walla for kombenjola pata jallotole. Altata nyindiningol sambanang mini alonko they had just completed recruitment, stationed them at this particular place, came back and killed them, and then turn around to tell us that it's the United Democratic Party because they work in Brikama Area Council. It's the guy in hoodie who was at Yankuba Dabo's court case and he was there with a gun. That is not intelligence. That is a complete fabricated script by the regime. This is the question Gambia needs to ask you. These are the things you need to provide evidence to. And these are the questions you need to answer. Why did the regime lie this much in the killing of its own men in their line of duty? It's no longer about Usain Bojang's innocence because from the beginning, we knew that the dude that we grew up with in the community, everything you had said about him were just lies and deceit. They were just lies and fabrication because so that's the same thing with Hussein. If you tell us that he's a rebel, we just look at it and say, you know what, fuck out of here, man. Fuck out of here. That's just nothing. Doesn't make any sense. So, you look at it chronologically, the army is complicit, the police are complicit, State House is complicit, even the radio they were using to spew this garbage is complicit. The Ministry of Justice is complicit. So it's an entire government system that fabricated this script, run with a lie, try to run a single narrative prosecution and incarceration. And they got caught unaware because they thought this dude has got no body and they thought they were more intelligent than people. No. You can, of course, have better grades and, of course, know things better, but we are not dummies. We know what's happening in the world. Ngo, Atolle Konyoko, you have 3 military officers who were coming from Palmarima. Now, while coming from Palmarima, this incident happened in their presence when they were at the Sukuta traffic light. These 3 military men told us that they cannot even tell among them who the senior man is. I grew up in a military setting. There is no such a time that 2 military officers would stand and between the two, they don't know who the senior person is. Kula Mantaku. But that's even beside the point. This same person told us that they got military sock or battle sock, let's say. Now, you got battle sock, probably you either freeze or you hide or you run away. But somebody with a gun, you had no gun, you had no, life jacket. There is no way you can protect yourself from this person. In basic, even unarmed security, when you hear gunshot, you actually take cover and, of course, see how best you can escape. Of course, get other routes to, find a way to really get yourself covered. Unless and until there is no way I can move. You basically go and confront the person. But this is in an open environment. And then you had no gun. You had nothing. You are still going to pursue the gunman. You are pursuing somebody who's got a gun and can turn and kill you within a second. No military intelligent person will do that. Aman sense make. There is no way you undergo basic recruitment training and somebody will come and do that. You should be fired from the military because you are the dumbest. But they are not dumb. They are just stupid. They don't know what they were saying. Again, you got battle sock, but yet you are running after somebody who's got a gun and can kill you. But but this guy can always turn around and fire at you, and then you can take cover on a fence line. Bro, if you can see a gun pointed at you and you cannot tell the clothing, then something is really wrong with your vision. Yalo man sense make. But again, kabirin tata nga la call log sol jibe. Because I had always had this mentality that kula manta kujang, go and print out this call logs of these 3 military officers. When the call logs were printed, we realized that the 3 military officers were even calling each other during the same time of this incident. But a molimini yalong ko. Itollebe naka nyola, itollebe moto killing, itolla kabodula killing. Then itatarla loring jang. It's just like ninga tarana bungo kona jambe call kang obe keno la nyadire. A man sense make. So the whole point is that these people were calling each other, and there is only one explanation to that: coordination. There are either people that perpetrated this crime, and of course we are calling each other to coordinate, or they were there to make sure that the person who did it escapes without a trace. But not that they were coming from training at Palmarima, because shortly after that incident, these 3 people were compensated with a trip to Turkey. When we are after something, we go all out into it, and then we find out every detail of it. So why were these 3 people compensated with a trip to Turkey? So the military knows something about the killing of the cops. We can't stop there. The military equally went on to do a ballistic examination. Now, in this ballistic examination, you can also see their trick in it. What would we do? We have to make sure that we tell the Gambian people that this is a rare type of a gun. It is not one from our military installations, because Ninga Foeko, this is the mark, and of course, it is one that can be found within our military installations. Fingers will be pointed at us. So, to lie again, they have to go and do a ballistic examination to claim that out of 400 ballistic examinations that this particular person did, this is just a rare type of a gun that is not within our military installations here. Lunchi jublu, pour wax ñu ne, it is not from within. Still another cover-up. But where did they get exposed? Now, you said this person shot, he actually shot 3 people. 2 died and 1 was admitted. That's already 3 bullets. Allah knew soldier killing a loco. When they were pursuing this particular person, he was turning and firing at them. Was he having 2 guns? No, because it's 1 gun that you people said you get, and that is the gun that was used to kill these people. But the ballistic examiner told us that only 3 bullets came out of that gun. That is mathematically stupid, because you cannot tell me, he fired 3 shots and killed 2 and injured 1. That is already 3 bullets. And then he was firing at these 3 military officers and they were taking cover on fence line. How many bullets are that? You don't need to go to primary school to know that that can never be 3. But the reason they had to tell us that only 3 bullets came out of the gun is just out of stupidity and out of just, even if you are covering up, man, bro, I can be a better soldier than most of these folks, man, honestly. Because their level of military intelligence is just almost non-existent. This is how dumb some of these people are in the Gambian military. You know, but we would say it, and we will not shy away from it. Somebody had the guts, and now let's look at it. And the CDS is complicit in it, because when the police wanted the ballistic examination to be done, under normal circumstances, procedural issues, the police would write to the CDS of the Gambia Armed Forces that they want a ballistic examination done through its leadership. And the leadership will send it to the respective department through minutes to say, conduct this particular ballistic examination. It's either it is minuted that conduct it and send the results to the police, or conduct it and of course the CDS will get the results and of course submit it to the police. Now, upon conducting this ballistic examination, it was not even dated. And the person, when asked in court, could not tell when he did the ballistic examination. But yet he told us only 3 bullets came out of the gun. Yet the military contradicted it by saying that, of course, he was firing at us as well. But he had already shot 3 people. How can that be 3 bullets? Because none of anything they have said in this court case from top to bottom corroborated. Is all divergent. It's all not holding water. But again, one would ask the question, why will the military allow itself to be involved in such a manipulative act if its 3 officers were not complicit in the act? They got a driver who claimed that he drove Amibojang from Yundum to Brufut to pick Usienoboja to Brikama, from Brikama to Daslame, and Daslame, that is where he left this person. And then he did all of this within 30 minutes. Moro, I don't know what kind of a vehicle you got. There is no way you can drive from, Yundum all the way to Brufut, pick Usienobojang from their house, drive all the way to Brikama, leave Brikama, drive all the way to Daslame, all in 30 minutes. It's practically impossible. Yet again, what defeats common sense and logic is that Usieno, who would have been an expert, because the person that killed these people is just a gun mastermind, all-rounded marksman, because at every shot he kills. And you realize that if you are going to shoot a gun, anytime you hit, there is motion. Because when you hit, somebody, fell. And if somebody falls, the rest of the people will be mobile, because people will move. Not that these people were tied, that you would just come, pam, 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 ye, bam, fala. No. These are people that are mobile. So if you hit one, the rest of the people will be moving. But even in motion, he is still able to kill the second and, of course, hit the target for the third. That cannot be just a Bena Samba boy see on we did it. Koko real marksman la. And one of the military men within the 3 said that he is a trainer at the training school. And of course, he trains people to shoot. So he would have been a master shooter to be able to train people to shoot. They fit the perfect description of a potential murderer in this case. Just like the police officer who owns the vehicle that was claimed to be, Usainu Bojang's vehicle, and he has a weapon. So first, the characteristics of this shooter. Let's describe. Must be somebody who knows how to fire a gun. Must be somebody who has a gun. Let's just put those 2. Not even to go further. Now, the owner of the vehicle that is said to be Usainu Bojang is a police officer and has a gun. He has the ability to fire and he has a gun. A potential suspect. The 3 military officers are marksmen. Have the ability to fire, and of course, they probably have guns because they have access to guns because they are military. They are serving officers. So these are people of interest to this case who should have been investigated thoroughly. But instead, they flimsily let that vehicle go, even though all the bystanders claim that that vehicle belongs to the shooter. And of course, they circulated photos and videos of that vehicle all over, and everybody knew. But when I saw the vehicle, I said, this is easy. Because we got the vehicle, we got the number plate, go and look at the registration. Jumala new motor register, Jumala tam. And it was realized that the vehicle belongs to a police officer who has a gun and of course an orderly. Oh, they said they were together, they were coming from Palmarima. Just go and get their call logs. They were calling each other during that period. Mama said the audio is lost. Okay, don't worry. I got the audio. Don't even say anything about it. Let's wait until the final moments of this case. Bring the audio. And there is one thing I wish the defense still, goes ahead to do that. Mama lenata kota ko hani taransu amandungate bulu. But we saw a letter from the Ministry of Interior inviting the police high command to the Ministry of Interior conference hall to actually give 1 million to the person who actually helped them get Usainu Bojang. And we've also seen an audit report that was red flagging the fact that Mama was fraudulently giving a 1 million from the state coffers. So now go and bring the audit report, tender it to the court, and of course, let somebody come and authenticate that, yes, this is an authentic audit report from, the audit office. And you know what that does? It completely renders Mama as one of the biggest criminals and liars of that country. Iko man taransuta. But audit report we have fintin like 1 million detail. Alka muna mabo, alka muna fanya afoje. Man taransuta man ko didn't when you were asking ko ila audio filter nga audio fintin di nge fan yande woto. Iko man taransuta audit report hay na nata ngalande ko nga fele de ko million detail la whatever muna phone la. There is nothing that this woman can say that this court would consider to be credible. This is the fact. These are the facts surrounding this case. But again, you said you arrested him because there was an audio circulating all over. We brought the audio. DPP teloko audio filter. Director of Public Prosecution in the Gambia claims that the audio is lost. The audio was brought forward to you, and now you are fighting tooth and nail to avoid the admissibility of the audio that you relied on to arrest this boy. Now, that Gambian's judge, eko yela barim filter eko ntela ngasunya nko eko morela barim afela ko rela barim otasai eko hanila ba manke tata ndi man tatala oro kudo le beto de to nyante woti. So the police force, the people that are serving in the police should be the people who should start to put up that red flag. Ask your leadership who killed the cops, because any one of you can be killed just this way, and this could have been any one of you. So when I see back then a few people that do not know you, they will come to your inbox with a lot of insults, and all of a sudden they pretend to be civilians. Along moro, you don't outsmart somebody who probably knows the world better than you. Imagine you change your profile photo, and then while deep down in your other photos is all in uniform, and then you claim that, oh no, I'm not a police officer. I'm like, you're probably one of those people they will send to go and kill people in this way, and then the next minute you are exposed. You don't even know how to actually act smart. But the whole point is not even to, vilify those people. Maybe they were just upset and they did not understand, and they thought I was just defending somebody whom to them was a murderer. Because they would have, like I would always believe my boss, that he cannot be any person who is dishonest. Because I expect that highest level of professionalism in them. But the whole point is that the police is betrayed by its leadership. And its leadership is complicit in the killing of the cops. And there we go to Ablai Sanyang and his pretentious trip to China, pretending as if it happened in his absence and he knew nothing about it. But Ablai Sanyang should have been questioned as per why these folks were actually put in this particular spot, because we know the fight and of course the internal issues that emanated from those discussions prior to sending these boys to this particular location. And pretending to travel to China to make sure that this incident happened in your absence is just like, Koro Sise's case. Moro mol nyama made. Atol minka wuri jambi, sana manjanyol ni mo kodangol. We are right in our faces. We are seeing cases that are really real time, but everyone is just shorting the lead because in tolu after menala. Tada for cool be banta after 10 years we come and be flogging a dead horse. The right time to actually seek justice is when people begin to commit crimes against people. But we cannot wait until after 10, 15 years or when everything is done and we say, oh, you start flogging a dead horse. For what? Oh, the case is before the court. When did you people know that this case was before the court? When you had, done all that you could. And then I've said it the last time and I would say it again. You see, there are certain media practitioners. To you, they are veterans and they've been doing the job for so long. Longevity is not what matters to me. It's what comes out of you that I judge on a daily basis. Go. I am not a journalist. I'm not a trained media practitioner. But I equally know that there are certain things that are out of bound and they are so unethical and questions one's professional integrity. Sangare used Peter Gomez's radio to come and say, oh, Usainu Bojang is a rebel, he killed the cops and, they gave him an escape vehicle into the thick forest of Casamance, Dunta Jabota Jana Kumajama Jama. But Sankare bo fola lunga minna. Peter Gomez as the interviewer, having his interviewee from the government saying all kind of things. Of course, at that point in time, you will allow him to say whatever he wants to say. Because it's about a case that he believes that investigations have been done after 30 hours and he's reporting to the Gambian people. But at that point, this particular person is still considered an alleged or an accused person. Excuse me. Now, accused person at that point. Under no circumstances should a professional journalist be reading text messages suggesting to go and hang this particular person. Under no circumstances, abukola ko bi ning ini mobe interview la radio ndanga banandiro kinanje o banandiro ta yo read. Does it make sense? O any mobe interview la ko ko kara na la ko mandia nyalafa. Ite wo read. What sense le make? There are things that need to be filtered before they come out of air, no matter what. These people at that point in time, at that radio, had already incarcerated and, of course, hung this boy. Because he can mean fire, this boy should not even be taken to court. All they need to do is to quickly investigate him and go and, kill him by hanging. And Peter had the audacity, with all that you people claim he's a professional par excellence, to read those messages on live on his, radio, whereas it's listened to all over the country that people are suggesting for Usainu Bojang to be hanged without even any investigation. Tony Molo Kamfaral Kavoko, no, Peter professional, professional, and then I've seen some of you trying to, bring it into a different, angle. Pajakama, no, him kata, Pajapita Koneko Chimanjako, doing, hey, Yimbo Father and Goko in the Mundi. Ndapete kachinya manjako sang ni bafingi ndapete luka chimanjako ndapete banyanka me ubarare nyanka tefuru rajulu ko rudi ringu ko ngimengu ko mubatitul and the same people uchipuja kama penatara manjako finga uraju manjako ku yusira polent nonsense rule tebu ku jiungo pik pinamo ngo chata finga o. that he had the audacity to invite Sankare after the subpoena to sit back and be discussing and even referring to the court's language as discourteous, rude. The court that is trying to make sure that there is justice on the killing of the people that you claim is about ethnicity. Like I bat in Banyama Kanjay, but at the end of the day, she come Manyama Tabawan to go into Robis because for them, they are so much consumed by outright stupidity without reason. I call Ole Banyanga Mary, Omar Malmo Sambou Potara Koyan Tagway, because Ubarari Ukorika Parakabat, take out Yan and Buneola. No matter what you did for this country, in Dotum Potarak Konga, no Barara, Jubara, Limlane to Chulum, Lenta to Tapago, Mamaka Javanyakama, Banyam Bikundu Bofika, Bikundu Gusabiki, Bikundu Bukabiki, Bukaroko Gus, Katanyaka Lente, Bukulandes, Yanim, Penuta, and then Dotum Milko, Pujaka, Chimanakum, the Galento Bara, Chuway. Chunko and Nangali Puturi Batabanyana, what is that? Then the make of boy were fingering king in the Piola Chimanjaku in there. Instead of puchili pulente banyano barare kachi, uraju monte kampuro chi uraju meuko kanatara banyampa ubarare kachi. Ma kakun kore jikiji, put finger pe uno finger pu invited Sankare buko lente ka gusata rolo buko jikiji. Namungo pe no ubos kobo the baga. So aja bala kurije jingulong nyakang tag na ibat. This is the thing. So the whole point is, can mun feed dekal can fum dekut, because the whole point is you don't like the people killed better than any other person. So therefore, standing up for justice is not just for the person they falsely allege, but of course the question remains, who killed the cops? We want to know who killed the cops, because we do not know and we cannot up till date understand under what circumstances will the government lie from one point to another to where we are today. What is the reason behind that? And you know what the reason is? It's because UDP said they were going to avenge some of the actions of the police, and specifically Pate Jallo and Babu Jeng. They had to kill another Pate Jallo, pretentiously come out, make it look like, oh, it's a mistaken identity. It's the United Democratic Party after the police, and they are the ones who were surveillancing paramilitary bases for a whole 1 week because they want to avenge that. And that is why the president said somebody wanted to scare the police, and of course, Kapoliso na de la mansa kunda silandi. Aya taradung it jalosi ngobe foranka. Mto nyati. Katu ni tol ni na manke jalosi ngobe foranka. Muni ebola fani ya fola kuto itolo mankulo minto. Hamulo, defulo, yegulo, lo sifen. Du bena du nyar from the beginning all the way to the end. Luñ fa wax rek ay feni kese kon nguur ngi lutax ñu wara fenal aussi nu bujante emuñ ci di fen si affaire bo xamantene yow ñu lay liggéeyal si si sen buntu liggéey lañ leen rey, and then you have the audacity to lie about their death. This is the point. It's just like you have family members in the police. If anyone was killed that way, would you actually remain silent and feel like, oh no, it's just, probably some politicians who wanted to kill them? No, they may would no. It's not aduna loy hold like, take it from yourself. What you will not like done to you, don't do it to other people. I know most of these people within the force are silent simply because of the codes and of course the ethics that govern the system. But they are, well, I'm gonna stress about this case because they know that any of them could have been a victim of it. That the government that you are serving, the country that you are serving, that you can be killed. Come hide. And the people that should be there to make sure justice is done are the people that are out there lying to a point that they are even condemning the admissibility of their own so-called audios. No, but two people bikini buffing me sambo. No, this will not go in vain because people will continue to ask that question. The police will not protest because they cannot do that. The police will not come out and talk like I am doing. They cannot do that. But the police know within themselves what the facts are. Because these are people that are trained, experts in investigation and of course in criminal matters. So if their own people are lying, they just look and say, boy, let it go, man. We know what it is. So the police know better than I do. They understand this subject matter better than I do. So there is nothing that I'm saying that they do not know. So they know from A to Z that something did not go right here. Again, you gotta come on out. My president is coming in, General Fati. Of course, at the end of this case, we're getting into politics proper, I'm adding you in. Mr.
Yes,
President.
I was just reflecting on what you were saying, that the police feel more awful than this, and I think that I want to validate that point that you're saying. Definitely, the police are feeling bad about this, but injustice only becomes injustice because people choose to watch it. So we should not wait until injustice starts to affect us for us to act on it. Two police officers are shot in a line of duty. Three of them are shot. Usainu is an amateur. He cannot operate a firearm. Don't the investigators know that? When the whole country sees truth and avoid truth, this is what happens. This is how it goes. So that must not be a negotiation. Who killed the cops is not supposed to be a talk. It is ringing on their beds. When they go, they sleep with their pillows. They think of this. So let them understand that justice will catch up to anybody. Today we have seen Sana Manjang. So let's understand that we have to check every breath we make and every step we take. Because as humankind, judgment will always be there, here on earth or the hereafter. So we ought to remember that, and public servants need to stand by the truth. Let the death of these two police officers not just go in vain like that. It must not just go in vain. It must not be just you talking about it. Let us reflect as Gambians. People who swore to protect life and property are dead in a line of duty, and not a single police officer knows, and the matter is in court. There is no proper investigation in this country here. What are you telling me? These are just my reflections I wanted to share with you, Omar.
But the whole point is that we basically know that the police cannot speak for themselves, and because of their their duty bound, and then what they are doing, their work
They are,
function. But the
they are not here
population, the
to protect
population
life
need to
and
come
property.
out to make sure that accountability
I
is done
think
for our police.
the job of the police is to protect life and property. If I was in the police today, I would prefer to lose my service. I will not be going to work until I know who killed my brothers. This is it. Let me be dismissed dishonorably, so be it. That is how we're supposed to live on this planet. It's not a matter of compromise. My rank, I cannot speak. When you see justice, you stand up for it, whatever the cost. That is supposed to be it's not, it's morality. It's supposed to be us. So let's see it that way. We are not going to sugarcoat it in any way. This should trouble every Gambian heart. This should trouble every Gambian heart.
And
And
and,
if
and,
the
and
police is
the
watching,
funny
we
thing,
are
the funny thing is that
to ensure that justice is done for those two soldiers, men of his, who left their beds to protect and make his country stable. He must ensure that justice comes to them. If he's a leader of this land, that is something that he needs to do personally, because we're tired of talking about who killed the police. They know who killed the police. Let them come out and let us people know what is going on. So in the end, you cannot just tell us investigation court is going on. Free those innocent people and we will not talk about it. Those people have been going to jail for far too long for a crime they didn't commit, including a lactating murder. What do you mean?
And the funny thing is that you said you arrested this person because of an incriminating audio. Imagine the state coming to court to lie that the audio is lost. Now we brought the audio to them. They are actually fighting for the admissibility of the audio. They don't want it to be admitted. And they told confess okay, and then they have the audio. All of a sudden they came to court and said the audio is lost. What I don't understand is, why is the Ministry of Justice and its prosecutors lying to the court?
I
Why
will,
was the
I,
police leadership lying? Why was the
yeah.
office of the president, the security advisor, lying? Why was the ballistic examination a fraud? Why was Sankari out there to fabricate the script? All of these things are not mistakes.
Oh
And
yes, it
why?
is a clear,
It is one
calculated,
cover up to the other.
premeditated move. Yes, it
Exactly.
is a clearly calculated, premeditated move, and that is the only truth about this. So they must really understand that justice will catch up to them. Justice will catch up to them. These people swore to protect lives and property, and then the whole nation should stand, ensure that justice is served for these deceased police officers. Definitely, this is not something that as a nation we're supposed to watch. This is what humanity continues. The whole world also, we also did the same thing here. We watch other countries born, just by our neighbors. We cannot have a safe passage, you know, into Addis Ababa simply because of what is happening in Sudan. And people are keep quiet. Genocide is being committed. Ethnic cleansing is being committed. It's like we have come to a juddering halt of a world where humanity exists. Why must that be? For what? For power, for fame, for money, for what? What are they satisfying inside them? Where is our humanity? You know, and this is where I'm talking about the police they should be the first people to know, to investigate and ensure that there's credible things. You know, there are
But
good
it is the police that was actually formatting Usain Bojang's phone. It is the police that claimed that he wore a combat boot that did not fit him in court. It is the police that said that he is a rebel. It is the police that said that he works in Brikama Area Council. It is the police that actually know that it is the UDP complaining about a Pate Jallo and then station a Pate Jallo somewhere for a Pate Jallo to be killed, just for them to claim that the person who did it works for the UDP and works for Brikama Area Council. And of course, you know, is a rebel here and there. So one thing is, the police as an institution through its leadership must be held to account by its men. The
Yeah.
police should account its leadership for all the lies they did. But of course, the people of the Gambia need to account the regime for the killing of the cops and why all the lies. Because the whole point is that you see this Sanamanjang and TRRC issues, because we allow them to persist and to continue and to become a normalcy. Now, to a point that one feels that is so normal, just like in a jungle, an eagle can just drop down and pick any chick. And that was just normal. It's a survival for the fittest. Gambia cannot transgress back to that situation because the whole point is that this is a case that everybody need to come out to say, well, justice got to be done. And the government need to be held accountable because you had no reason whatsoever. You were not under any pressure, under no influence to come out and, of course, tals and camera, the fennel de kabib.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that justice will be served no matter what, one way or another. And to remind everyone that, you know, truly speaking, if justice depends only what can be proven in the confines of a courtroom, then it becomes a performance and not a principle. But let me explain to them that sometimes justice even comes naturally. And when that catches up to you, the issue of Sanamanjang would be a clear example. Some of the people who will shield people up there, when they are no longer there, they cannot protect you anymore. And this is how you will be. It is rather for you to surrender to the only protector, which is your creator, and then you accept the truth that which will set you free. This is my advice to them. This cover up must end, and we are tired of talking about this. They know, we know, the whole country knows, and everybody is silent. Then injustice will continue to prevail in this country. So this is something that we need to reflect upon as Gambians and see what could be done about this issue. This is not something, every time the courts are used as an instrument to suppress justice. You know, there have been many cases of that. So let people reflect deep in their hearts and come to think of how we came to this particular point in this new Gambia after people voted in 2016.
And
So let's
the whole point is that when you look at it again, you feel sorry for Ami Bojang, who is a lactating mother, has got children, and more or like a struggling family in the Gambia having every day to go and drop food at to people in mile two who know nothing about what they actually been charged for. And again, they've been there for over 2 years. Imagine every day going to mile two, forth and back. If you're spending at least, let's say, $200, that's almost $150,000 is in 2 years. Where will a struggling family get that? When you let the pansol ni kukotongal manali wala dimbal be janjanale be charindi. And then Gambian will control mo dina dun kill that we believe in God, we worship God. Every day we are praying. But at the end of the day, we are outright watching injustice against a little family, a very, very, very tiny family that did no wrong to anybody, and nobody dares to open a lid in the country because they all feel like nahaji tije because nala dimbal and take. And normally police all family along these young people just went out there with a lot of zeal, desire to work for this country, wear that uniform me along koditeje, but ila banko kanole bulala, altar almanta will fa fenda simply because one's name is Pate Jallo. Somebody need to die simply because his name is Pate Jallo?
Yeah.
Because if somebody said, oh, no, just for another kemo to be killed, that is not mistaking identity as they try to frame it. Tilimbalian in Tajidintian, Kuriala Beje. What a Nimasa Kunda mobile and Yanda Findla Katanila Conco, Alafa Mole Jumale police or Faletilon into Yatamanije. That is just
Yes.
the point.
Wala
But
nyantakela.
they have subjugated this family far too long that these people have suffered in this country for 2 years and everybody is acting as if they don't know. But the same government will call. Imagine going to Sukuta where this incident happened and not even a mention of that incident. It's guilt. Since this incident happened, did you hear the police talk about it after their press conference? And when people countered them and told them everything they did, they said were lies? They did not. But
They
every
did not.
other matter, they are busy talking about it, but they will not talk about this issue simply because they are complicit in the killing of their own men. And that is why I said to a lot of people that this was a cannibalistic inside job done within the confines of the people that are there to protect their own people. It only somebody londi je murunta ye faje murunta ye faniafo ila sayato boda je kota ngetate la bade do kake ko ke fon pretending as if they are sorrowful. Adama no joya man tambi wala mi ya lon ko ino atele samba ke londi dulata murunga ye faje da bade dulata ra fon ke je ko atela bala fate ni sango fon sida after 1 year he comes back to celebrate your death, yet he does not want to do justice about it, yet he comes to court to lie about your death. What kind of a system do we have? What kind of a police force do we have? And what kind of a regime is this? And yet people will sit back and try to tell you, oh no, Useno Bojang was literally killed by the media.
Of
Because
course.
people sat on the radio to say that, you know what, don't even take this person to court, investigate him and just go and hang him.
Yeah, but it was a case that caught people's heart. Police are killed, 2 of them. So those sort of reaction, in fact, is putting a whole innocent person in danger. Just like that. Sometimes, this can be even damaging. It can have some psychological impact on the
Not sometimes.
individual.
Already, this is going to have a lasting impact, not only the two incarcerated, their families and all of that.
Damage alone to Usain and a
Because
lactating,
the lactating,
Sometimes when I think of this, it's really, it's hard to take this, definitely.
not long ago, let me say this. Not long ago, one of Ami's children was crossing at the ferry point, and he saw Mama Jabi and all these people, jumping and howling, and of course clapping, and of course hitting high fives with the police chiefs. Somebody else sent me a video of that. And then I imagined if I was Ami's child, knowing my mother did nothing, and the person who lied against, my uncle is right there, sending high five with the police chiefs, and they're laughing out loud. And they're quite anako nyinle fanya dubul double kante badi ngol sorong nyala mi yalanko bi wala bi otoro lokono. Look. I would go and do something disgusting and let it just I die water. But imagine Mama with all the lies. They gave her 1 million, but every other time Mama has a red carpet into the police headquarters. Anytime Mama gets into the police headquarters, I know. She goes straight into the IGP and they make it look like, oh, they are actually birds of the same feather. So who is there to make sure that there is arbitration of justice among all Gambians? But Justice Mia Alonko, the ministry should be there to make sure that Tilingon into Onyatama Gambian will be team. New Walker Findinanka Wuliala Gambian Okam. Police or Mini Alonko, they are there to maintain law and order. New Walker Findika Wuliala Gambian Okam. Who exactly is there to work for the common good? So all of these people are just NPP talks. All these institutions in the Gambia are there to satisfy the needs of the NPP. And it was the regime that wanted the police to die so they can have something to say about the UDP. And this is the whole point blank, nothing else. But it's good that you came in. Probably when you become president, you make sure that there is justice,
Well,
So
this will depend on people, to deliver justice. Alma ale sondomol kaya rek, but this I cannot understand that we will stand as a people. Come bekele ni mosi fatile. After what we have gone through, the people will stand together to defend the truth, no matter what. Whether it's nta badingo or ita badingo or car badingo, ninga tonya defend. We'll be able to live in peace with each other. But this is not peace. Some families cannot go home with closure. Others, innocent people are suffering, in that mile two prison there. And yet still,
And then you look at the people killed. These are very, very young folks, because I know Sang was like back then at presentation of Mary. This is a very little boy. This boy would have just finished high school. Okay, you know, he would have just joined the police not even long ago. So they capitalize on these people's inexperience, knowing fully well that okay, they only capitalize on the fact that the other one's name is Pate Jallo, and of course it is Pate Jallo that the UDP was complaining about. Okay, capitalize well, and then Sang just became a victim of his colleague's name being Pate, and the colleague's whole crime is his name being Pate, nothing else. You know,
yeah,
and then Ali Olda Malaki Odla, Ali Ol Fao Fanya Sifala, and then they claim that they will do anything and everything possible to make sure that the other lady got the the right treatment. Do you know, up till day that lady was never even taken to overseas treatment, that at some point she had to come out to actually voice out her frustration about the regime. So the regime that really cared about these people would have take that lady out immediately to make sure that she get the overseas treatment required within a short space of time. But almost 2 years that the lady had to come out to say mbe janana for saying jaral kendo for masot. What any man sakundale alam me police will fa. They don't, civil servants in the Gambia la ko kan da bala fa jawkele, simply because even in your line of duty, if you have an accident, nobody cares, because there is nothing that really Gambians compensate for occupational health and safety. So most of the times it's honey father on your line of duty for nita bonotad. Niye baramanya sangara rin soto je mi along ko it cripples you for nita bonotaje wala la dimbala bonotaje. So what is the essence of dying for a country that does not even care about the plight of its people? Because of the governments in place, then the people in charge are the most evil, the most wicked that you can actually think about. So this is the point. And then we got to continue this conversation, and we continue to tell the people what the facts are. And then telling people, oh no, you have to vote for Barrow. Barrow is the most disgusting president one can think of. And change is what we all need to look into. And the whole point is no longer about, you know what, money. Because you will know that the span of your leadership is limited. And then anything bad you do, soon you leave, you will be, basically accountable to your actions. As simple as that. And this is what we need to inculcate in the minds of our people, that they understand that it's not just about that philosophy of
Mansale forman soto sign. Mole soto de government president constitutional empower at the form be luale koto ani molbe. Nunto le mansa soto ta. Me alon ka fa tale jinke. So mol nyente o lon na le sign. So ka hamade won sign men fongo le bulu. Power belongs to the people. So it should be government, self-governance of our people, by our people, and for our people. Anyanta kara wala nyama. And no nimme more understand no. Yeah, understand because nowadays, nunto mentality membe molbul, abe falling can sign. And no atutan to level. Ko ka nyimem faten just because ibe siri njay ba fu ko mamin ko mo be manyana tala fala. And dunga fomba fala ko tanke. Police fulay fan dol male mem Gambia be siri. Ah, man
that tells a lot about the Gambian. Imagine, when you got, it was you that told me, you know what, Moro, nganyang police will mindeja nyang protest la, these people can kill. And I was just thinking, oh no, maybe, any la phone call on wrong. But imagine these people within a week, you told me that what did they do? They went and killed Omar Baji. And I
Yes,
had
I
1 week
told
for us, you got boy. Dukaran nangalon nani mini benda nyun la nyum mulka mo fang faman Kenya ko hani fengo fennet.
yes, yeah.
That have
And
to look at you right in the face and be throwing that, rubber bullet at you, bamba, make a ko emo fa kula funky. And then within just, days, they went and killed somebody. So these are notorious people whom some of them, you know what, we have very decent police officers who know the truth. They are the most professional people, but equally we have the most notorious within, who can do anything evil just to make sure that they, they keep certain people in certain positions. And then the leadership is one of the most disgusting ones that ever existed. And this leadership of the police got to change. And this leadership of the police need to be accountable. And that includes the interior minister. These people must be held to account, and we will continue to ask for, justice in this case. No matter, even at the end of the case, we will continue to ask for justice, because the people you killed are
yes,
and then,
yes.
not only because they are relatives to people, these people died in their line of duty wearing the Gambia Police Force uniform that belongs to every Gambian. So therefore, seeking justice for these people is our collective responsibility as a nation. They are no longer properties of their parents and their households. They wear the uniform, and that uniform did not belong to their parents. The uniform does not belong to their household. The uniform belongs to the Gambia government, or probably the state of the Gambia. Therefore, it's every Gambian's responsibility to make sure that there is justice, because what uniform all about red, white, blue, white, green, lebeje, what it had do kola Gambia le. Gambia uniform wo ye wala dung and be do kola Gambia le ye bu wala to ye family ye fadu it all day along. The cannibalistic act need to be addressed. And of course, the police have no reason to lie, and then lies can only be associated with one thing: complicity. But anyway, it's been a minute over here, so we probably just wrap it up on that. And it's almost getting past.
I was just wanting to share my reflection because
But
this
it's
issue.
so good you joined. I really appreciate that. I still got to call you. We need to finish up what we started yesterday, so I'll just take a couple of minutes
Okay.
and ring you on the
All right.
phone.
All
Thank you,
right then.
man. Thank you.
All
By the
right.
way, I'll
Thank
confirm, man. Allah barakah back.
you to the listeners as well.